Trending story, sponsored by Subway. Try a delicious new foot-long cookie, pretzel, or churro sidekick at Subway today.
In a mock draft published Monday for Boston Sports Journal, Patriots reporter Mike Giardi predicted the team will take J.J. McCarthy with the number 3 overall pick. Giardi said he knows, quote-unquote, for a fact that New England likes McCarthy. So, Keyshawn, here we go again with yet another indication J.J. McCarthy is rocketing up draft boards. Does this change your mind at all about J.J. not even being a first-round pick in your mind?
It doesn't change my mind just because somebody writes that they're going to take him as a quarterback at the number 3 spot or wherever they take him. It doesn't change my mind. I'm not taking J.J. McCarthy with the 3rd pick of the draft. I'm sorry. I mean, I didn't see anything in college football that made me go, oh, my God, that's the number 3 pick in the draft. Because if you're 3, that means you could be 1. And if you're 3, that means you could be 2. And if you're 1, you could be 3. And if you're 2, you could be 3. So you're telling me right now that our eyes have told us that he's equal to Caleb and Jalen Daniels in our eyes? Because 1 and 3 ain't far apart, Skip. It's just not, okay? Because if those 2 guys, Jalen Daniels and Caleb Williams, were not on the board, are you telling me that he's the number 1 quarterback if those guys weren't there?
That's
what did you see this year other than winning the national championship that make me go, oh, my God, I got to have this guy?
Well, you just swept that under your little carpet over there about other than winning a national championship. He did do that, and that's what people like about him.
You're on a team.
Yeah.
Okay, you're on a team that's loaded all the way around with a phenomenal coach. I'm just talking about the quarterback position. I'm talking about arm strength. I'm talking about the ability to, because you can't throw the football in the National Football League on a consistent basis 8 times a game. Okay, he threw the ball 8 times against Penn State. They won that one. He threw it
in the second half. He threw it no time.
Okay, Ohio State, he threw it 20 times.
Yep.
And in the national championship against Washington, he threw it 18 times.
Didn't need to throw it. Yep.
But
I got it.
I still need my quarterback to be able to make all the throws in a game, not in T-shirts, in shorts, at a combine or at a pro day. I need him to be able to do all of those things on a consistent basis. Those reps are meaningful when you transfer it to the National Football League. They just are. I get it. Yeah, maybe the amazing blue that Tom Brady wore makes you revisit. Well, maybe we could hit again on that one. But to take a quarterback 3 years later, this time, if you took Mac Jones 3 years ago, now you're going to reach for another guy, because I felt like Mac Jones was a reach, even though they took him in the middle of the first round, that was a reach then.
Yep.
And however you want to say it, whether Bill screwed it up or he just wasn't good, it didn't work out.
No.
And now you're telling me that I'm getting ready to jump to the 3rd spot to go up and get J.J. McCarthy? Doesn't work for me. But what the hell do I know? I'm just a guy. Well,
you told me you're good at picking quarterbacks.
I'm just a guy that played the game and caught a lot of balls from a lot of different quarterbacks.
All right. I did not like Mac Jones coming out of Alabama, and I said so here on television ahead of the draft, and I could not believe that Belichick would go up to get him because it was a desperate reach.
Yes.
Oh, maybe I got my next Brady. No, you don't. And he had his moments, especially his first year. And then once he fell apart, he stayed falling apart, because once you lose your confidence at that position, it's not fair. And I do think Mac Jones would have a chance to sort of rebuild himself in Jacksonville as he goes back to his hometown.
I don't think he's good, though, but that's just me.
Well, you know what? You're probably right. That's probably the bottom line.
I know everybody want to say that Belichick messed him up by putting Matt Patricia in them. Yeah, that had a little bit to do with it. But even his rookie year, if you really go and you break down the film, he wasn't pushing the ball down the field. Everything was at the line of scrimmage or a few yards behind.
He's a soft armor. He doesn't have much arm at all.
And so I'm not going to create this narrative as if all of a sudden Mac Jones should have been the first pick of that draft. I'm not going to do that.
Okay. I am here to tell you J.J. McCarthy is better than Mac Jones.
He might
and maybe
be.
that's not saying a whole lot.
He might be.
But I've told you from the start about J.J., I like him, but I can't go to love him because of what you said. They just didn't throw it enough for me to know because I didn't get to see it on a consistent basis. But here's the point. Does he have enough size to play in the league? You better believe he does.
6'2.5", 220 pounds. That's plenty of size.
Is he athletic enough to hurt you with his legs occasionally?
Yeah.
He is.
So somebody get a hold of him, yes.
Well, he definitely is. Does he have high football IQ? He does. Does he have a kind of a quirky charisma to him? He does. Did he make a bunch of big throws when they had to be made for Michigan in big games against Penn State and Ohio State and then into the playoffs against Alabama and Washington? He did. He made a lot of big throws when he had to make the throw. Did he consistently riddle teams? Did he pick them to pieces with his arm? He did not, because they didn't do that. They ran the football way more than they threw the football. And that little running back of theirs who's going to be in this draft, he's got some Emmitt Smith in him, ducking and darting behind those linemen. To your point, they annihilated Michael Penix in the championship. They were all over him all night long, and he got battered. I felt for him because he was overmatched against their defense. So what it did was it allowed Jim Harbaugh to call more runs than passes because they did not fall behind and they did not have to throw their way back into games because that's not how they played football. So there's. But
even though I'll just stop you in your tracks. Even though they ran the hell out of the football,
they did.
When have you've been doing this a long time, Skip? When have you ever seen I'll just say top three, since that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
A top three college quarterback projected to go into the draft in the top three. Again, that means you could be one or two. You could be, at that point, you could be anywhere. Not throw the football in college.
No, you're asking a very good question.
Andrew Luck threw the ball.
Yep, he did.
And he was he was coached by the same guy, running the same plays, using 3 tight ends.
Yep.
With like, I don't know, who was his running back, like Toby Gerhardt or something like that. He was running the football at Stanford, but he also was throwing it. They didn't take it out of his hands.
A lot.
A lot.
And sometimes he was throwing it to the other team, but that's a whole nother issue.
So again, if you 3, you can be 1. And he ain't Andrew Luck. So that's my only thing is when I'm looking at this, and I understand this is the hype season of running draft boards up and down and trying to see. It's also the
smoke screen season.
It's the smoke screen season. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I get it. That's why I'm like, nah, you're not going to get me with this.
So are other teams trying to talk a New England into overdrafting him at 3? Maybe?
Either overdrafting him or trading out of it, the number 3 spot, making him feel a certain way. I don't know. I would be dumbfounded and shocked to think that they would get him at 3 when they could possibly get him somewhere else, or take one of those other quarterbacks, those Bo Nixes, the Michael Penix, somewhere in a later round.
Good.
And still be able to fill that void at the quarterback position.
Okay. I still say J.J. is better than Bo Nix and J.J. is better than Penix. I believe that.
Okay.
And it's close with Penix because I'm pretty much a fan of his. I just didn't like the way he played in the championship game, but maybe it was just not fair. It wasn't a fair fight. Okay. Because he just unraveled under fire. Okay. So the point is, I like J.J. better than I like Drake May. So I have him as the 3rd quarterback. Would I take him 3rd overall? I probably wouldn't because I wouldn't have enough body of work.
That's what we're talking about.
That's all, I know.
We're not talking about whether or not he's the 3rd best quarterback.
Yeah.
We're talking about the 3rd
overall
pick of the draft.
Well, they need a quarterback, obviously.
You know?
Okay.
Yeah, just because, and I tell this to people all the time, just because I need something doesn't mean that I have to reach to go get it. Doesn't mean because I need a wide receiver, I got to draft that guy. I need a defensive tackle, I've got to draft that guy. If you do your due diligence and your homework the way you're supposed to, then you should be able to find that value in that player that fills that void. Because if you miss on him, this is going to set you back 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you take quarterbacks high.
Yeah.
If you miss on quarterbacks, you never rebound. You never rebound.
I saw a quote from Gerard Mayo yesterday to Mike Reese, their beat reporter.
I love Mike.
So do I. And Gerard Mayo said, I'm not asking for patience, but then again, maybe I am. Because it's like Yeah, because they got a long way to go.
It's not too often that you have a Peyton Manning for, 15 years, and then Andrew Luck falls right. As soon as Manning gets hurt, Andrew Luck falls in your lap. Because if Manning doesn't hurt his neck, there is no Andrew Luck. It is not very often that you drafted Deshaun Watson, things happen what they happen with him, and 2 years later, you find C.J. Stroud. Doesn't happen like that.
No.
It usually, you lose a Peyton Manning, and you go for the next 10 years looking for Peyton Manning. You don't find Andrew Luck, or you lose to Deshaun Watson, and you spend the next 7 and 8 years trying to find them because they're just not out there like that. And you wind up reaching and grabbing somebody thinking that that's that guy, and it's not that guy. The Cleveland Browns did it for 100 years, and they still trying to figure it out.
You lose Troy Aikman, and you spend the next 30 years looking for the next Troy Aikman, right? And we're still trying. We're still searching, and we're looking, and we don't have it. We don't have it.
The facts are, you are correct. You've been searching for Troy Aikman since Troy Aikman left the building.
Correct.
I don't care if it was Hutchinson, Quincy Carter.
How could you even bring him up? But go ahead.
I'm just saying.
I know.
I'm just thinking about the quarterbacks that came after Troy.
Oh,
You've been looking for them ever since.
Who did you play with when you were
I
there?
played with, Testaverde was older, Drew Bledsoe, Drew Henson. Those are the three that took snaps. Tony Romo was on our practice squad. But those three guys are the ones who actually took snaps. And Quincy Carter was there, but he wound up getting released in training camp.
Okay. Did you see Tony in practice?
Yeah.
Did you like
I liked him as a person.
You liked him as a person?
Yeah, but as a quarterback, he just was a kid. So you couldn't, there's no way you could tell what Tony was going to turn out to be.
Would he do scout team?
Yeah, he would be scout team. But he would, scout team is easy. It's a circle. Throw the ball over there. It's not that difficult. It's like, hey, throw it to him. He should be open.
Well, as you said, the Jets are still looking for the next Keyshawn, right?
I ain't lying. I understand Garrett Wilson is having a nice career so far, but they still looking for that number 19.
Okay, so I want you on record about J.J. McCarthy. You would not take him in the first round of the draft.
Me personally, at that high of a spot.
If he was sitting there at 25, you wouldn't say,
If I'm sitting there at 25 and we're having a conversation and he's got to go to a Minnesota, for instance, because we got Sam Darnold as a bridge guy, I may say, okay. I may say, you know what? Let's use our 25th pick on him. Let's use our 26th pick on him. Okay. I would do that.
All right.
I would do that. That's fine. That's a developmental situation that low in the draft.
Yep.
That low in the draft, that's a developmental situation.
Okay.
Is two-time MVP and Lamar Jackson was the last pick of the first round.
He was. Aaron Rodgers was the 24th overall pick?
He was somewhere in
I think he was 24.
Yeah. And so they drafted Aaron Rodgers to develop him behind Brett Favre. You're asking me.
It took 3 years. Go ahead.
You're asking me to draft J.J. McCarthy with the third pick. The third pick is not developmental.
And if you do take him with the third pick, you almost have to start him next year.
I don't even know who's on their roster. I think Zappy might still be there or whatever. But I don't know who's on their roster at the quarterback spot. You're going to have to play him sooner rather than later. The number 3 pick of the draft ain't sitting around for 3 years.
No, your fans won't accept it.
It's not going to happen.
Because you're bad anyway.
So if I'm drafting in the 20s at that low, of course.
All right. Well, at least you went that far. You give him that much respect as a developmental 25th pick.
It's not a respect or a disrespect. It's just he hasn't done enough for me to jump on a table and say, I like him at the third spot.
Yeah.
It's just, he hadn't done enough.
By the way, Tim Tebow went 25th overall. Remember that?
Yeah, Josh McDaniels got fired.
Well, that wasn't why he got fired.
But I'm just telling you, he got fired.
Well, midway through Tebow's rookie year, he got fired.
And if you're sitting here trying to convince me that Tim Tebow, now, I don't want to go there because we'll have a whole, we'll burn all through our segments if you're trying to convince me that Tim Tebow was the guy. Don't do it.
Well, all he did was win a...
Oh, God, stop, man.
Took a 1-4 team to a division title? How did he do that? I don't know.
A 2-yard throw and the rest was to the house.
Really?
Stop.
Huh. I think he threw it about 30 yards in overtime against Pittsburgh. I don't know. I'll remember it like it was yesterday. Greatest pass in NFL history.
God.
All right, back to the NBA or college basketball. We're not sure which at this moment because Bronny is already